I'm one of those seekers. I'm somebody who always knew there should be a different possibility. When I was a little kid, I grew up in the ghetto with my mom. I happen to be white. If you haven't noticed, my mom happens to be white. We were the only two people in about 8 square miles that had white colored skin. In the ghetto, I received dynamic levels of abuse. I was emotionally abused a lot. I was beaten up a lot. And I also was sexually abused. And at one point, I had a circle of women standing over my little naked boy body, hitting me with belts and hitting me in the penis as many times as they could to let me know how evil and wrong and bad men were. And so this is an interesting thing, though. I talk about this, right? And I've used access consciousness tools to go beyond the effects of the abuse. And so I can just talk about it like I'm talking to you about anything. And I'm bringing that up because a couple reasons. One is, even with all of that, and even with growing up with a stepmother who hated me and a father who didn't want to be around anybody, including me, and growing up with a mother who loves me very much and still does, loved me very much and still does. What an amazing gift. Mom, I love you. I thank you. You're one of the greatest gifts ever in my life, ever, and always continue to be. And I'm so grateful for that. But even with all of that, as a little kid, I still had happiness and a sense of hope. And I always knew, like, even while getting beaten, I was like, it doesn't have to be this way. Even when other kids would yell at me or make me wrong for being a different color, it was like, what are you doing here, honky? And I was like, I live here. That's what I'm doing here. But I could tell energetically, even as a little kid, that there was something off, like something that I was doing wrong. Well, it was the fact that I was breathing, apparently, was the problem. But I'm bringing up these things for a few reasons. Because I've noticed with a lot of people have experienced abuse of one form or another. But so many of the people that have experienced abuse would never call it abuse. And why am I bringing up abuse on Dreaming Big, Creating Bigger? Because it applies in ways you wouldn't ever have imagined. And now that we have this clearing statement and can actually have a conversation about it, we can start clearing some of the stuff that has been some of the stuckest, darkest, deepest, yuckest stuff that anybody could experience. And in so doing, we clear layers above that. But in that, what we end up doing is we end up exposing, even if you've experienced abuse, we end up exposing this lightness that the world could actually be. See, I've been doing access consciousness for 20 years. And I came to it because 20 plus years now, I came to it because 20 years ago, I had literally set a date to end my life. And I'm a seeker, like I talked to you about. It's like I was reading every self-help book I could. I was going to every seminar that I could and could not afford. I mean, I was using credit cards to buy, audio programs and all this sort of stuff. And I was doing a lot of the stuff you've all heard of. And I would go to a weekend workshop, for example, and I would feel like, yay, I finally found the answer. And by Wednesday of the following week, I felt like the universe was caving in on my head again. And I was like, fuck, man, I had it. And it, God, I remember those days so well. It's like I had it and it just went away. And the only conclusion I could come up with, because it happened over and 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 over. And people that knew me then will tell you, Dain, you went from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, thinking it was the answer. And I always hoped someday you would actually find what you were looking for. My mom said that to me when I saw her last Christmas. And I was like, well, finally happened. I finally found something that actually worked. But so what would happen is by Wednesday of the following morning, it felt like all the shit that I had let go of during the weekend was all back. And what I realized after doing access was I just didn't have the right tools. I didn't have the right tools in this clearing statement, for example, which actually changes where you lock this stuff in place. But I also didn't have the ways of looking at things that were about empowering me to be the gift that I was uniquely. Because my beautiful friends, please hear me when I say this, or play it back later if you can hear it later better. You truly are a gift. And I am not just saying this. This is from somebody who has traveled literally all around the world and worked with hundreds of thousands of people, if not more by this point, done sessions with thousands upon thousands of people. You truly are a gift. And all this shit that you have been living with, all the effects of abuse, all the effects of invalidation, and all the effects of the abuse that you received that you wouldn't even call abuse because you weren't beaten and you didn't have an alcoholic father. Like literally, I didn't even realize that I had experienced abuse because I was like, well, yeah, I'm unhappy a lot and I don't feel very successful, but I mean, I'm not living on the street. I'm not a bum on Skid Row. I didn't have an alcoholic father or an alcoholic mother. I didn't experience abuse. And it wasn't until I started looking at other areas of my life that these tendrils of abuse started showing themselves. And then Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and I got to what had actually occurred. And he got the download of the pictures of it. And I was like, oh my God, I had no idea that was in there. But what that created, see, this little me, just think for a moment about the little you, okay? Maybe, so what I want to ask is, and I promise I'll finish my other threads that are going. If they ever do figure out how to put somebody's consciousness on a microchip, mine ain't gonna fit. I'm sorry. It's just, okay. So I'd like you to think for just a moment about the little you, or the you that had a sense of possibilities, the you that was willing to actually dream, the you that was willing to ask for anything, whether it showed up or not, just because it was fun asking. How old was that? And when did you give it up? At what age was the first age you gave up dreaming and you gave up asking? Everything that is times a godzillion. Will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Oh, so many cool things on the chat. Thank you. Oh, what are you doing when with your hands when? Oh, and I had this thread here that I was supposed to be looking at that I haven't looked at all. Oh my goodness, too funny to me. Okay, give me just a moment. Okay, so the thing I'm doing with my hands, when the energy moves, my hands move. I saw Gary do it and I'm like, I'm glad that doesn't happen to me. And 6 months later, it started happening to me. And I tried to stop my hands from moving, but they don't stop. And so I don't even think about it. I don't even realize it. I just tell people I'm highly Italian and I have Tourette's. Okay, so let's go back to, yes, talks with hands and feet. Thank you. So true. Have to be completely complex. So here's so what age were you that dreamer of possibilities? What age did you give it up? And here's the reason I ask it in that way. What age did you first give it up, actually, was my question. And some of you are like, I don't even know that I've had that. Some of you can get an age. And the reason I ask you to get the age is because that oftentimes is enough of an energy, because when you put your awareness on something, see, we're functioning from all these limitations that we don't realize we have. We don't know where they came from. We don't know how to change them. And so we just live with them, kind of like carrying, like having balls and chains on our feet and chains on our arms, trying to navigate life, trying to run a marathon with these 20-pound weights around arms and legs, right? So when I ask, how old are you being, or how old were you when you first gave this up? Your awareness goes, and you just be there present with it. You don't have to think about it at all. But a lot of times you have a number that comes up, like we got 8, we got 9. And what happens is that a lot of times is enough of your awareness going to that thing, and then we use the clearing statement. This is where the beauty of this clearing statement thing, the beauty of this whole way of doing things, this is where your choice comes in, okay? This is where you choosing something different, you choosing to reclaim a part of you and undo what you did to give it up, starts that occurring in your life. Now, a lot of people are like, yes, but I want it all to change now. I'm like, so do I. I'm doing as much as I can, okay? That's why we have access classes and all this stuff online. Got a ton of videos online. Got, the Being You Changing the World class coming up, like so much stuff so that we can do this change as fast as possible. And so, but realize that even starting the change, it will go, like if you've ever tapped a piece of ice or tapped, if you've ever had a window that got a chip in it and then the cracks started going, that's kind of the way it works, okay? So once again, at what age were you? You already got the age, you don't have to think about it again. Whatever that age was, when you feel like you first gave up dreaming and questioning and asking for more. And somebody's saying 19 or 20, I'm going to say it was probably long before that. You want to look usually in childhood, unless there was some major event that occurred. But when you get that age, a lot of times you'll get some inkling of something that occurred that a lot of times was or was not even related to you, where you made this choice to shut that down. Or remember, who does this belong to? You perceive somebody else who shut it down, and then they made you wrong for still dreaming. And you're like, oh, I'm wrong for dreaming. Okay, I'll shut it down now, just like they have. So whatever that age was and whatever happened, wherever you gave up being a dreamer, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Okay, my face went that way because there's a lot of energy on this thing. So part of what I'm doing with my hand is it sort of perceives the energy. It's so weird. I know, like, I mean, really, even when I'm doing talks in front of people who are not there for access, and it's like, and when I'm on TV and that sort of stuff, I put my hands on the desk and I'm like, don't move, don't move, don't move. And I'm like, I can do it. I can do it. Sometimes I put my hands on my lap and just tap them like that. Because I already told you about the twitchy thing and the biting the nails thing and all that sort of stuff. It's like, I've got a lot of energy going. So anyway, everything that brought up, and everywhere you have a lot of energy going, and everywhere you've been trying to suppress it rather than express it and live as that, because that is the energy of living that will ensure that you can have everything you actually desire. Stop killing it. Will you destroy and uncreate it all, please? Times a gazillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And this is a great one. At the age of 2, there was something I can't recall, but I guess it turned me off. Well, look from, I can't recall, but I guess I turned me off. Because the other thing that has to start coming into our worlds is, rather than looking outside at what was done to us and blame, shame, regret, and guilt and doing that, the only place we can truly take back our capacity to create and dream again and actually have access to our lives and our choice is if we look and go, okay, nothing happened to me. I know there were lots of things where you would say happened to me, but I'm trying to rephrase this. Instead of this happened to me, you want to look and go, okay, it shut me down. I chose it. Now, here's the other thing we got to talk about though, which is judgment, because we're so used to judging us and we do this so much. Please stop. Everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. And somebody talked about all the dreams were limited to dreamland after 3 months. Everything you've done, wow. How many of you have like a dreamland, quote unquote, someplace where you shove all of your dreams so that they don't go away? Now, this is friggin' brilliant. Check this out. How amazing must you be to be living in a world that doesn't accept dreams, but you find a way, maybe not to actualize them yet, which we're going to get to a little bit more, okay, but to keep them and preserve them so they're not destroyed. So everything you did to shove all of your dreams out into some magical world or some different world or some different space that you can't even access unless you're in dream time mode. Everything you, now some of you won't want to bring it back because you don't want them to be killed or destroyed. But what I'm going to ask you to do is everything that doesn't allow, you should see outside right now. It is blowing and the leaves, there are leaves everywhere. It looks like snow. It's amazing. And it's funny because it's right during this moment of the conversation. The universe talks, people. It's amazing. So everything that doesn't allow you to, again, access that world, you don't have to tell anybody else, but everything that doesn't allow you to, again, access that world of your dreams, wherever you put them, and start letting them slowly filter into this reality as you're willing to have them, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And this one, it can begin from the period in the womb. Like I'm a mistake, for example. Yes. So that also can occur. But you know what? The beauty of the clearing statement is it can affect you even if it wasn't this lifetime. Now, I know a lot of you may not believe in other lifetimes and it may not fit with other stuff that you've decided is true and whatever. Just see if it makes you feel lighter. And if it doesn't, you don't have to take that part. Okay. But for that, let me ask you this. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to get a sense of the being that you were before you came into this body. Whew. Okay. Now, some of you, it'll just seem like space, almost like blank space. What I've found is when you think it's blank space, it's usually just space. And space is what you are. And when we're most being us, we just have space and we don't feel like anything. And then we feel like we're wrong for not feeling like anything because we feel like we're blank or we're dying or something if we just have space. So then we go and create a problem so we can feel, because we know who we are when we're creating a problem. We know who we are when we have a problem. And we know who we are as we're solving the problem. And then we know who you are right after we just solved the problem. And then after we have space for a day or two or something, it feels like too much space again. And then we don't know who we are and we can't define us anymore. And we spend our whole lives trying to define us from that moment of giving up the magic. And so now what we do is we go back and start the cycle again and create a problem so we know who we are, because when we're so much space, we have no idea who we are. Everything that is times a godzillion. Will you destroy and create it, please? Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Yes, Pock and Pod, the superheroes of consciousness. That's what I call them, the superheroes of consciousness, Pock and Pod. You can do it on any energy. Okay, so I'm hoping you got that thing that I went through really fast, because here's the weirdest part of this reality to me, is everything that is you being you is something you judge as you not being you. Meme, what? Everything that is you being you is something you judge as not being you. So for example, when you're total space with no thoughts, no feelings, no emotions, no point of view, that's actually you being you. Here's another way, is kind of like I was talking about before. What if you were more like a tree? But how did you get so lucky? You have legs and you can walk. They stay where they are. It doesn't mean they're not active, by the way. If you tap into any tree around you right now, notice if it's got a lot of activity energetically in it, even the ones that are getting dormant this time of year. So when you're truly being you, you're like a tree. You don't think. You don't need emotions to know your being. You don't need feelings to know your being. You have such a space that it encompasses everything with absolutely no judgment and no point of view. Remember a definition of consciousness, where everyone and everything exists and no one and nothing is judged. Meaning judgment is one of the biggest killers there is. Judgment of us, judgment of others, and judgment of things as right and judgment of things as wrong. This is one of the biggest things that gets in the way of us dreaming, number one, because we only want to dream the right things rather than letting our world soar to anything that might be interesting and fun to play with energetically. And the judgment of, and it's also one of the biggest things that limits creation.